Hello and welcome to episode 75 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, staying hydrated. What's going on?
I'm staying hydrated. It's going to be a good one today. I am very good, my man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Can't complain.
Nah.
I can complain. I'm just choosing not to.
Wow. Okay. That's a bit. I'm going to put it out there. I cannot complain. Because as we're recording this, I am going on summer holiday very soon, which is also why you won't be seeing as many regular podcasts in the coming few weeks. It's going to be worth it. We're going to have something very cool in store for you. We're going to be here. We're going to talk about, whenever there's something big happening. Hint, hint, there might be something big happening over the summer. We're of course going to be here for that, but I'm also going to be away, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to report record the podcast, report the podcast. Never mind. It's going to be difficult to record the podcast while I'm gone. So bear with us. We're going to be back stronger after the holiday period. But also we're going to, let's say, end. Before we take the slightly longer break, we're going to end with a big one because we've got our hands on these. And that is PUMA just sent us this. And we're like, yo, here it is. Something's coming. So we're going to talk about that today. It says a lot of cool things. It looks really cool. It's really wicked and light. And I guess... PUMA, they have this tradition of sending out, making boots ahead of something big happening. We saw it with the First Future. We've seen it with some of the camo boots that came out before some of the Evo Speeds were launched. And I guess, this is just a sign that something exciting is coming. So we're going to talk about that today. Of course, if you have any questions for that, or if you have any questions in general you'd like us to answer, leave them in the comment section right down below. And if you like what you're seeing, please leave a like on the video. It's going to help us a lot, and we will appreciate it even more. So Josh, first thoughts when you laid eyes on this bad boy.
Let me just clarify. I have a pair on the way, so I have yet to have a chance to see them in person for myself.
Right. And who sent you those, by the way?
That would be my good friend JayMike from Unisportstore.com.
He sounds like a nice guy.
It's okay.
You should get him on the podcast and say he sounds like a much nicer guy than me. Yeah, but anyway, okay, so yours haven't arrived yet.
Yeah.
But you have a pair on the way, and by the time you see this, hopefully Josh will have received his pair and probably made a video about it. But yeah, I've shown you some pictures.
Yeah, that's the plan. First impression of it is I'm glad to see the direction that PUMA is going in, because I think what they have right now with the Future and the One, let's face it, the market of football boots right now is very much focused around speed. And speed boots are the most popular it's the most popular category for every single brand. And I feel like PUMA right now, regardless of how they choose to market either the Future or the One, they're not really viewed as true speed boots. And this really gives me that kind of true speed boot vibe, going back to what they used to do with the Evo Speed line, which had its hits and misses along the way for sure. But this looks like a completely new direction for the most part. Although I will admit that it does remind me a lot of some Addy stuff. It kind of, like, if I were to picture the combination of an X and a Nemesis, it's kind of that's what I would picture, I feel like. Okay. Interesting. I mean, that's probably going to change when you get it in hand. At least it doesn't. I know what you're saying, though. I know actually what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, it does seem to be some sort of speed prototype, as it says. It also says, loading, so it's coming. Apparently, we're in test phase 04, and I think this was supposed to be launched in spring 2020, or this was when they made it. And then obviously it says faster and ultra, so it might be ultra fast. Might just say ultra because ultra is cool. It could also have said Uber 3000, which would have been even cooler, I guess. And then there's some sort of, I guess, physical or mathematical formula back here, which I guess is something
It's got something to do with speed, I guess. But it also, I mean, the silhouette screams speed boot, right? It's sleek, it's fast. We got really aggressive studs here, as you can see. And I've already cheated a little bit. I've worn them. They're really nice, super lightweight. My size UK 6 is 150 grams. But the cool thing is that they don't feel like 150 gram boot. It's stable, it's soft, it doesn't feel flimsy. I don't know if you remember the Evo Speed SLs that felt like super. They were also only 102 grams, but they felt it didn't feel like a football boot, like in a traditional way. You didn't feel like you have the stability in the midfoot and the support you need, and you do get that there. It seems to be some sort of, I don't want to know, knitted or woven upper. Might be like with. Seems it's exposed, which I'm kind of excited but also nervous about, because we saw what happened with the first prime knit Zambas that also had exposed knit, and that was a little bit interesting. But really, really solid pair, super light, relatively soft and pliable. Nice collar here and decent flex in the outsole. So, I mean, I'm excited, and just the thought of having, as you said, having a proper PUMA speed boot again is interesting, because, like you said, the one was never really a speed boot. Like it wasn't. I know, they made a couple of colorways of the one that made it look super, super fast and cool, and some of the best looking boots on the market. For instance, this one. I'm just grabbing a random boot, and
just random.
Just random boot. For those of you watching, I am holding the best looking PUMA boot of recent times, the PUMA 1 City Pack, designed by some genius from Copenhagen. I'd like to meet him one day. But jokes apart, I mean, PUMA have always, since the V106, they've been about speed and lightweight. Like, they've always pushed the envelope, and I like that. We're back to something that feels maybe a little bit of what the V106 in modern days could have evolved into, with like some sort of textile, whatever, woven upper and, aggressive outsole. It's not pretty bad, and it's light.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that. It kind of does feel like a return to what they originally were doing with PUMA speed boots, with the textile upper. And I think a lot of people forget the early PUMA speed boots, because while they might have been relatively popular at the time, I think that they've been forgotten as time has gone on, and a lot of people just remember the Vapor 3s and what Adidas was doing at the time. When I think there's an argument to be made that the PUMA speed boots really early on were some of the best ones that you could actually get, certainly from a comfort standpoint, but there were also some weird ones. There were some weird ones
the V110 McDonald's boots here, and the 108s. It wasn't my personal favorite either. 111s weren't great either. The 111 SL, V111 SL.
Yeah, 111 SL, even the 108 SL was pretty decent as well.
Did they make it? I don't think they made an 108.
Is it 108 or is it 110?
110 SL was also pretty cool. They made the 815, the Ferrari boots that we've talked about. I have them actually. They're 10 meters or so away. I can go and fetch them if you want.
Yeah,
but
110 SL is definitely what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but I think they made it even better with the 111 SL. They had this like small piece of carbon fiber in the middle. That was a nice boot, and that felt to me like one of the first boots that could really rival what Nike were doing with, this felt like a rival to that super minimalistic feel you got in the Vapor ones. Just obviously more comfortable, but very, very minimal, obviously. Yeah. And then they made the Evo Speeds, and I thought the Evo Speeds were all solid speed boots without really, and very comfortable, to be honest. But they just, they never really had it for me to be. And they came out at a time where Nike were doing the Vapor 8s and the Vapor 9s, which I think generally, at least for the two of us, can be considered among the better Nike Mercurial boots we've had ever. So that was a tough one, and they were also facing off, especially when we came to 14, end of 2014, against the F50 Adizero Zambas, which was also like, that's difficult to compete against. But isolated, the Evo Speed boots were pretty good, I reckon.
Yeah, no, they were all solid performers. I think where they were lacking is when you compared them to the other speed boots at the time. And the synthetic, I just never felt was up to the same standard for the most part. It always felt a little more plasticky. And there was also the option of a leather variation with a lot of these boots. And
which was nice.
I think in a lot of cases, the leather one was better. But I think there's also the argument that the quality of the leather was never up to the standard that I think everyone was hoping for.
Agreed.
For me, out of all the Evo Speed models, the best one was the 1.4 synthetic. That's the one that I really like that had that kind of webbed design launched in orange with the white form stripe. That to me was the best one in terms of like the quality of synthetic being up to a standard that I thought was really good. But yeah, I think you could also make the argument they were all comfortable. They all performed the part. They all had something good about them. It was just a tough choice to pick those over options from Nike and Adi at the time.
But the 1.4 was also when they made this. That was around 2015, if I'm not mistaken. They also made the Evo Speed SLs. And that was interesting because that was 102 grams. And then they lasted... I think this was my test boot. And I only played it like in a couple of times and during the review. And they're already like... It was extreme, and it was something for Puma to show. We're ambitious. We're going the extra mile to actually. Adi built the 99-gram boot, and as a concept boot, Puma just took it a step further and actually launched it. This was too crazy for me, and I think for a lot of people. I personally didn't like the 1.4 that much. I rather enjoyed the Evo Speed 1.2s. I think that had that slightly leather feel release paper to it that was pretty nice, I think. But for me, the best Evo Speed was the Evo Speed SLS. I don't have a pair anymore. Mine broke because I used them so much. But that was a proper, like it had that sleek, minimalistic feel of the SL, but just with a more sturdy upper and had actual durability. Do you remember that SLS?
Yeah, I do. That was it was kind of, it was very Mercurial-esque in terms of what it offered, right? Just quickly on the Evo Speed SL concept, a boot that was, for those that don't know, it came with a warning label letting you know that they were only for matches and they were estimated to last approximately 10 uses, and that's it. And then they're going to break because they're so thin and so light. And if you got 10 uses out of them, you were probably sitting on the bench for 5 of the matches you used them in. But I think that the reason why that failed as a concept is I think it's always a weird thing to ask people to pay a lot of money for a football boot that they know is going to break so quickly. I feel like durability is such an important thing for people. But it was also a $300 football boot. So the argument that I've always kind of made in my head, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the podcast, but I'm curious to get your opinion. If they launched that as like a $100 boot, where you're getting top level performance, but it's only going to last you 10 matches, does it sell at $100?
Yeah. You
think it does?
I think it does. Yeah.
You think that becomes a successful concept at that price point?
I think it does. Yeah. And maybe if they did that today, where they've understood that they kind of own this €200 price point, and they then have something that you can basically, let's say it would be made with sustainable materials. You could basically take it, you can throw it away afterwards, or send it back, and they're gonna, they're actually gonna use the materials again. But you can only use it for a very short amount of time. If you then have a match football boot, it's a great idea. You have a match football boot, you pay 75 to €100 for it, and it's disposable afterwards. Like, would you do it? I think a lot of people. It's a cool
concept. I think that from a marketing perspective, it'd be easy to get people behind that. Whether or not you'd have people long term continuing to buy into that, I feel like the only way that works is you have to really be very close to that 10 match guarantee.
Oh yeah,
because then at that point you're looking at, let's say, 2 or 3 pairs a season, which would be equal to buying 1 pair of normal football boots in terms of cost.
And just the idea that, when you're done with the pair, you can actually, it's going to be recycled. That would be cool. It's kind of disposable and recyclable.
Yeah. But back on the topic of this concept boot that we're here with.
Sorry.
For me, the statistic that jumps out is the weight. at 150 grams, and I know that yours is a smaller size. So in a bigger size, let's say it's 170 grams.
It's 160 in a sample size.
Oh, wow. 100. That's okay. So just for perspective on that, for those that aren't familiar with the grams, ounces comparison, 160 grams is like 5.5 ounces. We're talking about the weight of the OG F50 Addy Zero from 2010.
Exactly.
Which is like, that's so much lighter than anything else that's currently available. And if they can make a boot that light feel comfortable and reasonably durable, I mean, that's a game changer in terms of how it compares to other speed boots on the market right now. Because the Mercurial at this very moment is lighter than it has been over the last several years. And the X-Line, I mean, it's still kind of a variant of that OG F50, but it's gained weight over the years.
It has.
It's not as light as it used to be.
It's become less speed booty and, more, I would say, generally accessible, which is to some people a good thing. To others, like the hardcore speed freaks, potentially not where they'd want to see the X go. But this has a little bit of everything. Like it to me, this, I also want it, and the fit is great. It's nice and stable. It's super comfortable, but you still get that like speed boot sensation, and that's very interesting. And it just, again, it gives you that mental benefit of feeling super like it's disappearing on your feet. But it's never. At least I didn't feel like I got the downside of having such a lightweight boot. Like it felt unprotective or unstable or anything. So I'm very excited to actually, dive a little more into the tech behind this. And yeah, I know all the tech and I know what's going to happen. But I promised Puma to keep it a secret for a little longer.
Yeah.
So Calvary, to talk more about it.
I know I've got a question for you that you may or may not be able to answer. And if you can't answer, it's fine. But knowing what you know, and you know more than me, this is obviously coming. Is there going to be a complete revamp of the Puma brand and their football boots again? Or is this just going to replace the Future or the One and we're going to see continuations of those? Do you know?
It's been nice weather today here in Denmark. So yeah, the sun was shining a little bit and then it started raining. So yeah, it's definitely.
Well, there's your answer, folks. There's your answer. Well, I was just wondering because I feel like the hype at this point, and I see hype written on that boot, has died on Future and One. So clearly they're trying to build up some hype again, and it looks like the hype is going to be real this time around. Because again, I think people forget. It's funny to think that the Puma Future as a concept is old. Because that came out, in 2000, like late 2017?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about 3 years, and people are like acting like it's a dinosaur.
But maybe it's because the concept has been the same for, since it came out. And we've had 6 generations now? 5, 6? No,
a lot.
5, 6 generations, yeah. And I mean, for the concept to be the same when, it was net fit and it was that textured upper, when that stays the same over, let's say, 2.5 years, maybe they need something new. Whether this replaces the One or the Future, I mean, it's something. It's not new. I mean, it seems like a speed boot, and that's not necessarily a new thing. But it feels like a return to something that people can actually get excited about. So unless they go out and price this at 350 euros, which would be extremely stupid. But unless they do that, it's like this is a solid product. I mean, I'm gonna rock these.
Yeah, like from a marketing perspective, if the goal is to sell boots, which is ultimately what all these brands are trying to do, I think what they did well with the Future is it wasn't necessarily marketed as a speed boot or a control boot or any of these kind of like standard categories that you see from everybody else, but people were hyped on the boot because of the concept that it introduced. And as time went on, the hype on that concept died, and then they really had no way to make a marketing push on the Future anymore. You just had to want a Future because you wanted a Future. And then the Puma One, while I think it turned into something very good, and it is something very good right now, I think the launch was so unsuccessful when the Puma One was first introduced with the 17.1, right? Like, that's just not a good football boot. I don't care what anybody says. It's just not very good. It doesn't look good. No. It doesn't feel good. No. There's nothing about that that's like has any redeemable quality. So even though it turned into something great, It's always the best example. Jay, hypothetically, if they do get rid of the one, how are you going to incorporate that into a mention on every single episode of the podcast if the one is no longer a current model?
Easy. I mean, this isn't a current model either, but it's like the best looking model we've seen in the last 10 years. So, we can, every time we talk about beautiful football boots, I'm gonna have an excuse to whip this beauty out made by some genius called, I think, does this say JM?
I believe it does. Yeah. I have a theory. Do you have a room in your house that's just dedicated to? Probably have like what I'm picturing is like 300 pairs, just the walls lined.
That's
in custom JayMike boots, and that's all that room is for. And you just walk in once a day, you breathe the air, and you walk out, and that's how you start your morning.
That sounds like a really good idea. I'm a little bit afraid that if I got a room like that, my girlfriend would probably just pack her things and leave. So I'm just. It's here. It's at the office. But there might be a couple of things where it says JayMike, But let's not talk about my weird. Let's talk about something else. But yeah, going back to the black concept boot here. Dude, I'm excited. I'm really excited. It's And it's just, we know Puma boots. We know Puma, they're ambitious when they make speed boots, but this is, this feels like something that can actually return them to being a serious competitor and a serious alternative to Nike and Adidas. Whatever it is they're coming out with, if this is reasonably priced, then I don't care if they call it a control boot or speed boot, whatever they're going to call it, but, I want to wear it. And I reckon when people try it, there's it has the potential to at least take some market share because it's a cool looking good football boot.
Yeah, well, we'll see because it's going to be the speed boot category is going to be a very competitive space between now and the end of 2020. Because I mean, if we just look at the timing of how all the brands launched their stuff, Puma's launching what appears to be a speed boot. We know there's going to be a new X relatively soon. You see pros training in blackouts. And Mercurial is probably a little bit further away. But we saw a shorter life cycle on Mercurial once. So I'm assuming that they're going to maintain more of a surprise shorter life cycle this next time around for Vapor 14 Superfly 8. So it'll be interesting to see how the general consumer responds to those and if Puma can maintain hype around this product.
Let's see. But for now, that's all we know. You guys are very welcome to speculate with us in the comment section right down below, of course. And again, by the time you see these, the playtest review will already be on unisportstore.com over on the Unisport channel. And Josh will probably also have his video up, but yeah, let us know what you think it is and what you think the direction of Puma boots should be. But Josh, with those closing words on that topic, let's move on to some questions. Do you have any questions you want to ask to the general public here in the podcast?
I have no questions to ask them, but if you do have a question that you'd like to ask us that we could potentially answer in the next episode, feel free to leave that down below in the comment section.
A beautiful transition.
Just don't ask about JayMike's house. He gets very nervous.
Yeah, don't. I mean, you can ask about the house. It's actually more of an apartment, but you can ask about that. Just don't ask about the boot room. It's like,
or his secret rooms filled with JayMike boots.
I don't have any of those. At least I'd have to keep them very, very, very secret. Anyway, we have a question here from Geraldo Medrano. Took a weird turn this. If I were a 9 in Tiempos, would you recommend on going 8.5 for Mizuno? Well, if you're talking about the Mizuno Morelia Neo 3s, then yes, I would go down half a size also when compared to Tiempos. If you're talking about the Morelia Neo 2s or the Repulus, then I would stay personally true to size. What do you say, Josh?
Yep, I agree with exactly that advice.
Great. Alejandro A. Best, a longtime viewer and listener of the Boot Nerds podcast. We appreciate all of you who've been with us since day one. Anyways, he's asking, I had an idea. If you had a small accessory for your boots that showcased that you are a certified boot nerd, people would get crazy. I think Boot Nerds laces free worldwide shipping on any order over $16.99 would be a smash. I've heard that before somewhere. And he will, of course, take 10%. Good man. I mean, yeah, that would be pretty cool. Of course, being the fact that you know, this boot nerd community right here can be seen as the official authority on everything boot nerd related. So, I mean, if it's approved by the boot nerds community, then I guess it could be, you know, seen as relatively official. I think that'd be relatively fun. So, guys, let us know if you like have any wishes on that and share Alejandro's idea, so we can.
Yeah, we could probably make that happen. But I'm also just a suggestion if we're gonna have a symbol, a product symbol for the Boot Nerds podcast and just Boot Nerds in general. I would like to get, you know, those like washable tattoos.
Oh yeah,
it's a big one. It just says Boot Nerds across your chest.
Now that would be really cool. That would be really. I'll take 10, not just 10%, but just I'll take 10 tattoos. Just do them do every podcast just bare chested, just for the fun of it.
That'd be excellent in my opinion.
Yeah, that'd be really nice. But fun idea. We also have a question here from Danny Villamizar. Best grip socks.
The ones that I use most frequently, and to be honest, I haven't been using like a lot of like. Let's address the True Sock situation because I feel like that's the one that everyone's most familiar with. I like True Socks. I think they're very effective. For me, I think that they provide a little bit too much grip, and I don't particularly like the way that they wear. I feel like the actual grips themselves get too. They get gritty. Yeah, they almost get like a sandpaper like texture, and then you still maintain the grip, but the comfort goes away.
Yeah, and when you wash them, the little pads, they harden up, and they tend to get stuck under your feet. So a new pair of True Socks, they're great, but they're only gonna last you for so long. And if you're a pro, doesn't matter. You have a lot of money. But if you're like you and me, and you don't want to go out and buy new grip socks all the time, because let's face it, most grip socks are expensive, and that's another problem. Like, True Socks are really expensive, and then there's also the Falca socks that I really enjoy, Falca 4 grip, but they're also expensive. They're like 40 euros, I think. That's a lot for a pair of socks, right? But I like the Falca socks. I like the light guard socks. They're also very good. They have a little bit of compression around the ankle area, but again, they're also slightly on the more expensive side.
Look, I think that. Aside from a few like really high-end exceptions that you're going to pay a premium for, there's not a ton of variation out there as far as grip socks go. They're all variations of the same thing. For me, what I really value in a pair of socks is softness and comfort, and just the way that it fits my foot more than anything. Added grip is something that is a benefit if it's something that you really want to have. But I'm kind of that opinion as well, where it's like I don't feel the need to pay this huge premium for a pair of socks. It's just, I think grip socks are great, but I think that they should be a lot cheaper than they are.
I agree. And that for me is like a bit of a hole in the market because, I like the light guard socks. I just checked on Unisport. They're 33 euros. And I mean, I'd pay that, but I'd rather have something of that quality that's cheaper. I mean, that for me is what is missing. Like, where is that, high value for money alternative? Because all the grip socks that are coming out, and a lot of them are good. They're solid grip socks, but I'm just missing that, by now someone must have cracked the code to making an affordable pair of grip socks. So that's just a little bit of what I'm missing. So Falca, very good. Light Guard, very good. Calza PDX, very good. But also, a little bit too expensive.
Look, people that watch this podcast understand how business works in the football boot industry,
sure.
Right? Right. A football boot costs a lot less to make. The materials cost a lot less than ultimately what they sell it for. And there's development costs. There's intellectual property that they have to buy from other companies to have these certain technologies. They have to pay crazy endorsement deals that they've made to market their product. So there's more associated to it than just the cost of manufacturing the product. But when you're talking about a grip sock, in materials and development, there's not a lot of money to be spent for the most part. So charging $30, $40, $50 for a pair of socks it's look, I don't want to say that it's wrong, but I don't necessarily agree with it. I feel like at this point, grip socks are great, but it's like, I don't want to call it a monopoly, but you really have no choice but to pay the premium if you want them.
Exactly.
And there's really no reason why they need to be that expensive, in my opinion.
I agree. So that would be great to see. But, there are some, the options that are out there. Again, they're not backed socks. They're very good. And I personally wear them when I play matches, but I just like something, I like to not have to pay 40 euros for a pair of grip socks.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Sure.
Anyways, Alex Deck. Hi, Bootnerds. A question for the next episode's Q&A. If there was a football season currently on for you guys, well, that's the case for me. What would you most likely have in your match day boot rotation? I'd be really interested to know. Also love the podcast. Thank you, man. We love making it. So, Josh, if the season was on, what would be in your match day boot rotation right now?
See, like right now, just because Beta 3 just came out, I'd probably be in Beta 3s. But I really enjoy the Pred 20.1, and I feel like because of the added grip that on the ball and how much that impacts touch and feel and to a certain extent performance, especially when shooting the ball, I feel like it's one of those boots where I wouldn't find myself rotating as much because I feel like you would want the consistency of that grip. Because if you were to like just in a single training session go from a Pred to any other boot, there's a noticeable difference where there's going to be a 10-minute period where you got to get used to it again. And I try to avoid that. So I like long term over the course of a season right now, it'd probably be a Pred 20.1 low for me.
Right. Okay. So those two.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
I just took a look in my bag and saw that, I have what did I bring for my latest match? And I brought the Neo 3s, which was the boot that I wore. Then I brought a secret boot that I can't talk about yet. And then I brought a pair of Merc Vapor 13 AGs, which I always have that in my bag. So I'd probably go for those two, and then, depending on my mood on the day, I'd probably bring the Pred 20.1 lows or the X19.1s for backup. Just like, or maybe probably. You know what? I'd probably bring it depends. But those two are the regulars, just depending on how I feel.
Yeah, you're more of a rotate your boots type of guy.
Yeah.
I'll wear different boots every single training session. But when it comes to matches, I like to be a little bit more consistent.
Right.
That's how I've been. I wasn't always like that, but as I've gotten older, that seems to be what I end up trending towards. Okay, I like the feel of a broken in, well worn in pair of boots.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
But the thing is, my feet are so used to wearing whatever. So I just go with what I feel like wearing on the day, even for matches. That's the best thing for me. And sometimes I warm up in one pair and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna wear the other, and then I go switch, and it's ridiculous. But yeah, that's probably what I'd be looking at. We have another question from Tommy. Wait, what? Tommy Rusunello. However you say that. Yo, JayMike and Jay, excellent podcast. You should consider the idea of making a video regarding the history of the brands, like what Adidas and PUMA did in World War II, or how did Nike and Mizuno start up, as well as their milestone shoes. Keep up the good work, and greetings from Greece. I thought that, you guys should, and you, Josh, of course, should let us know if that's something we should do, because there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, especially, of course, the whole Adidas, PUMA, I don't want to call it a controversy, but they have history. As we know, it was, the companies were founded by two brothers, Adolf and Rudolf Dassler, who actually had a company together at first called the Gebrüder Dassler Schuhfabrik. It means the Dassler brothers shoe factory. And then they fell out and they created Adi Dassler, which is short for Adolf, and PUMA, which came from the company that was initially called Ruda for Rudolf Dassler. Hey. And there's a lot more to that story. So yeah, I mean, I can talk about that for ages. And there's Nike has a cool story, Mizuno as well. So yeah, let us know if you think it's.
I think that's cool. I mean, you seem like you're more of a walking encyclopedia when it comes to that kind of thing versus me, but I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I guess we have some stories and we could talk about. Yeah, I think the whole milestone boot thing is. I mean, we've kind of gone over the most important boots ever stuff before, but I guess it would be an interesting way of like really breaking up and say what defined these brands in terms of football boots and where they are today. So we can definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, for sure. I like that idea.
Cool. Then we have a fellow nerd from the UK called Ben Deacon. What's up, Ben? Have you seen the recent Instagram trend of FG boots being renovated and the SG Pro studs being added to the sole plate? Does this affect the integrity of the sole plate? Keep up the great work. And I don't know if it's a recent trend. I think it's been done by a couple of guys on Instagram and online for like as far back as like 2012, 13, I guess. Like Toots Boots and those guys. They've been blacking out and customizing boots for ages, I think. But I mean, yeah, I don't want to say, when you saw off, you take off some of the FG studs and you drill a hole in the the stud base and you put in like what's the base for the screw in? I don't know what you call that.
In English. I don't know what you'd call that either. But the thing you screw the thing into.
Exactly. And then you put in SG Pro studs or SG studs. I mean, of course, yeah, it's gonna hurt. When you drill a hole in something, the integrity is gonna suffer a little bit. But I don't think that you shouldn't be afraid of the boots really falling apart because of that. Unless you drill a lot of holes, but I wouldn't see that as a problem. Of course, if you do it wrong and you seriously screw up the boots, that can be a problem. But for those guys who know what they're doing, I don't see an issue there. No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I don't see a lot of value in that, considering how everyone makes mixed sole soft grounds already now. So I understand that maybe you want a particular color that didn't come out in a soft ground stud pattern. I mean, I guess that works. I will point out that I think as long as you're wearing them on legitimately soft ground, it shouldn't be a problem. But it is also worth noting that every single soft ground boot from every single brand does feature usually a thicker plastic outsole than the FG model. Even if it looks similar, it's always thicker. And if you have the boots in person, that's immediately noticeable. So there is something that the brands have decided is a better way of doing things when they spend the money on the mold to make a thicker sole plate for a soft ground variant. So, I mean, whether or not that little difference is important to you and probably does make a difference in terms of long-term comfort. It's hard for me to comment, having not really worn a custom soft ground boot, but it's something to be aware of at the very least.
Absolutely. And every do-it-yourself solution is, of course, going to come with some sort of risk. I mean, whenever you do alter your boots yourself, I mean, there's a risk of it going wrong. I mean, I think I brought out my Superfly ones that I black out myself, and that turned horribly wrong. That was really, really bad. So yeah, you take the risk, but would I be afraid of converting a pair of FG boots into SG? I probably wouldn't, but I think on the other hand, I'd just rather buy a dedicated SG Pro pair of boots if I'm at it. I mean,
that's what I feel like I would do too.
It's not if you convert a pair of FG boots to SG, it's not like you can go back and also wear them on FG. Like once you take the plunge, they're SG boots for the rest of their life. So it's like. Nah. I'm probably a little too safe when it comes to that. It's not a big risk. I would say I'd be okay doing it, but I just the other solution to me is just better because it works. I mean, the guys doing this are obviously good at it. Otherwise, they wouldn't make a business out of it. But I'd probably stay away. There's no,
Yeah.
not because I'm afraid, but because, you know, there's just no need to. It's just like, I can also go out and try and fix my car myself, but if the, you know, the auto repair shop is, I know they work and they do a good job, so why?
Yeah, it's not, I think custom is maybe not, it's not so much custom as it is just modifying.
True,
But
yeah. I know what you mean.
I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's not like soft ground boots aren't easily accessible.
Exactly.
That's my point.
Even in the US, it's more like the problem with AG boots, and that's a whole other discussion. I pity you guys. But that's for another episode of the Boot Nerds podcast, because this episode ends more or less right here in a couple of seconds. Because today has been it's been great. We had a lot of questions as per usual. And if you have any questions you'd like us to answer in the future, leave them in the comment section right down below, and we're gonna do our best to get back to you. Also, do remember that there's gonna be a slightly longer break because I'm on holiday, and I'm sorry about that, but man needs his time off. So bear with us, and then keep in mind that we're gonna come back with a bang when the Boot Nerd podcast returns to the more normal schedule after the holiday period. So yeah, don't forget to leave us a question in the comment section right down below. And if you're sad and you want to watch more football related content, you can go and check out what Josh is doing on his channel over by his face. You can see what we're up to at Unisport, where there's also a lot of new football content rolling in every day. And if you want to go and make sure you get the latest episodes of the Boot Nerds podcast, well, go and subscribe to the channel by clicking the white bubble, I think it is these days, in the middle of the screen. Leave us a like if you had a good time. And with that said, I've been Jay, and I approve this message. See you later.
Later.